We've been very nice.
Next morning.
What's up, Nancy? How are you?
You got me set up.
Yes. All right, everyone. We're gonna call the agenda for a public hearing concerning the temporary 180-day moratorium regarding location, development, and installation, construction, licensing, and operation of new barber shops, hair salons, nail shops, banquet halls, event space, tobacco shops, and fast food restaurants in the village of Maywood for Tuesday, March 22nd, 2022. Please call the roll. Calling your own room to order. Please call the roll.
Trustee Sanchez.
Here.
Trustee Reyes-Plummer.
Here.
Trustee Jones.
Here.
Trustee Viper.
Here.
Trustee Peppers.
Here.
Trustee Brandon.
Here.
Mayor Booker.
Here. All right. 3, acknowledgement of the public hearing notice published in the newspaper. So the hearing was published in the Sun Times. 4, presentation regarding the proposed temporary 180-day moratorium of the location, development, installation, construction, licensing, and operation of a new barber shop, hair salons, nail shops, banquet halls, event space, tobacco shops, and fast food restaurants in the village of Maywood, village manager, village land planner, and village attorney. All right. Attorney Jurczyk.
Good evening, everybody. Based on the board's direction at its last meeting, we're having a public hearing tonight to discuss whether or not the board is going to implement a 180-day, a 6-month moratorium on certain businesses. The businesses consist of new barber shops, hair salons, nail shops, banquet halls, event spaces, tobacco shops, fast food restaurants. Also, the board is going to consider whether this moratorium will be put in place so they can spend the next 6 months considering whether to implement retail overlay district regulations that would impose certain special regulations on those types of businesses. You can't exclude them because they are retail businesses, but you can impose certain regulations. Are you going to impose certain licensing requirements above and beyond what are already on the books? Are you going to put spatial distance requirements? Are you going to require that they be 300, 400, 500 feet away from each other? Or are you going to require that they cluster in certain areas? That's one of the things that communities debate. You know, do we cluster certain businesses in certain areas of town, or within certain business districts, do you keep them from clustering and you spread them out? So that's what tonight is about, is really to just talk generally about those concepts and whether you want to impose a 180-day moratorium, you want to accept new applications on those types of businesses for the 180 days. Based on state law and court decisions, if you do put the moratorium in place, what do you do after that? Well, the courts say you have to really be diligent about studying this. So you have to look at, you know, what are other communities doing? What are the regulations you want to put in place? You need to have a public hearing before your planning commission, you know, your plan commission, to evaluate and vet this. You need to get public input, and that's the place where the public input comes, is at a plan commission hearing where they'll do sort of the heavy lifting and they'll consider these concepts. They will evaluate staff's recommendation for regulations to implement. Ultimately, what we'll end up having is staff will make a recommendation, the board will send this matter back to the plan commission for vetting. The board will hold a public hearing, take input from the community, and then ultimately they'll make a recommendation back to this board to consider adopting a new set of zoning regulations and possibly business license regulations to further regulate these businesses. So that's kind of the process and a quick overview of what we've been doing here. And tonight, the action item on it tonight is to actually adopt the ordinance that's on the agenda if you want to move forward with this initiative.
All right, thank you, Attorney Jurusik. So before 5, we're going to board comments and questions from the board members. Just one thing I just want to point out, like, this does not affect any current active businesses within the village of Maywood. This does not hurt any current active villages in the village of Maywood. What this is us actually trying to clean up old documents, old paperwork, old licenses, and old businesses that might not be licensed correctly or might not be within the certain parameters that we would like for them to be. Again, as the Attorney Jurusik said before, it's really to decide, do we allow a barbershop to be right next to another barbershop? Do we allow a nail salon to be right next door to another nail salon? It's about spacing. It's about how many will we allow in the community. Many communities have parameters where they only allow a certain amount up to a certain number of businesses to be within the village. So this just gives us that opportunity to assess, evaluate, and then come up with those ordinances that we currently don't have on the books that many other communities do have on the books. But being transparent about it and making sure that we have the public hearings and sharing that information with everyone. So with that being said, are there any questions or comments by board members?
Mayor.
Trustee Brandon?
Yeah, I have the following concerns, and I made those concerns when the idea was mentioned to go this route. My first concern is the impact that it's going to have on, as we continue to navigate our way out of this pandemic. Those individuals who own commercial units, I think that's going to provide additional layer of tape for them to get folks into some of the empty units, commercial units that we have throughout the village of Maywood. So I'm against it from that perspective. And then I also have a concern that I did mention to one of my colleagues about one of the particular type of businesses that's included in this moratorium. And so we're talking about barbershops, we're talking about beauty salons, we're talking about fast food restaurants. And then there was something else you mentioned that I was concerned about, which is anything to do with like banquet halls or rental facilities. So when it was first brought up, I was highly concerned because I wanted to know who was a part of the conversation. So there are two of my colleagues who sit on this particular committee, and so one of my colleagues has a family. He owns a business that is included in this, which is like a banquet or a rental facility. So I was also concerned, and I did bring this to one of my colleagues who's on the committee, that I'm also concerned about that as well, because if you are having a conversation about for whatever period it is, having a moratorium or not allowing these types of establishments to come into the village, and if you have like a connection to like one of these businesses that is in here, the perception of it could be a bad picture. And so, I was concerned about, the conversation that was having, that particular type of business that was included within the moratorium. I don't think it is, it was a good look to even have been a part of the conversation, to talk about putting a moratorium on the type of business that I may have a connection to, or my family may have within the village. So that was my other concern as well. But the most important concern is, those tax-paying individuals that are out there that own these commercial units. We're just coming out of this pandemic, I hope, and to put additional red tape to allow folks to get those units rented out. And we're talking about for 6 months. That is a long period of time. For somebody who's trying to get their unit rented out to bring in some revenue so they can be able to pay the taxes that they're going to have to pay. So we're going to stop these entities from coming in for the next 6 months, but we're not going to provide them with any relief for those individuals who own commercial units throughout Maywood. And as we all know, there's a lot of blight. You drive down Fifth Avenue from Quincy or to almost Lake Street, there's a lot of blight throughout Fifth Avenue. And I just believe that there's a better way to do this, and that better way is first having the study done and then moving forward in that fashion once we do our due diligence to figure out what we can put in place to stop the overabundance of whatever it may be in the village. I think there's a better way. I think that the current way that's been proposed is simply putting the cart before the horse in regards to coming up with a better solution, especially right now when folks are trying to recover and bounce back from a pandemic and provide for their families as well. So for those particular reasons, I am not in support of just having a moratorium. I am in support of doing the research and due diligence, but not shutting people down from being able to open up establishments, within commercial units that they may own.
All right, I think I'll say is, Trustee, this went through the Community Development Department. This went through the Ordinance and Policy Committee. And looking at it from the thought process, over the past few months, we've shut down multiple banquet hall and event space locations because of nuisance, because of operating outside of their licenses, or because of not having licenses at all. If you mentioned Fifth Avenue corridor, there's literally a barber shop, and you say barber shop, there's literally a barber shop every second block on Fifth Avenue corridor right now. So, as I said, the goal was with the new business licensing process that took place, it was found that there's a lot of different licenses, there's a lot of things that need to get cleaned up. There is a lot of barber shops, there are a lot of current banquet halls. We have more banquet halls or licensed banquet halls and event space than any other community in the Proviso Township. So I think that's more so where the direction was going to, but I'll yield to the trustees that you referred to if they would like to comment.
Mayor,
Trustee Sanchez.
Trustee Brandon is speaking of me. My family owns a banquet hall across the street. And if it appeases the board or if I am not allowed to vote on this, I will sustain my vote. That is definitely not a problem. It certainly has nothing to do with trying to manipulate a license or what have you. It's the impression that I've just received. However, during the pandemic, we had multiple venues pop up, multiple crime happen, not just in these venues, in barbershops and what have you. It's simply a matter of cleaning up. My assumption is, if there is a current business going through that process as we speak, I would probably not hold up that license. We cannot hold up that license, correct? So if there's any business that is currently wanting to open their doors, we're not going to hold them up. It's simply a process that came to us at our ordinance committee for cleanup. If we do not start changing the ordinances, if we do not start cleaning the ordinances, Maywood will not grow. It's that easy. The direction that we need to take this community needs to be brought by all of us. And that's why it came to the ordinance committee. But like I said, I will refer to the attorney. If I should abstain my vote, with pleasure I will. Thank you.
All right. The other thing that we'll also note, in April, during the months of April and May, we also are taking a look at the comprehensive plan that we'll be also having public community meetings on, because that plan is over a decade old. So this is just another part of, as we're going through the process of looking at our zoning, which some of our commercial zoning needs to be updated, some of our residential zoning needs to be updated, some of our industrial zoning needs to be updated. I'm looking at our zoning and looking at a comprehensive plan that's over a decade old that did not have much done with it. This is all in regards to making sure we're not still allowing things to come in that ultimately we will be creating ordinances within the next 6 months to put more restriction on. That is the goal of this.
Mayor?
Trustee Sanchez.
I apologize. You said something really important. If we're using this as a basis, is it safe to assume that we're going to, if need be, change ordinances for commercial, for industrial, for any other corridor? Is this the blueprint that we will be taking?
It's a part. It'll be definitely a big part of that conversation.
Thank you.
All right. Are there any other questions or comments by board members? Okay, so we'll go into questions by the public for public comment.
We have a couple, and I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. Daniel Hermosillo. Please come forward to the microphone. 3 minutes.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Sorry, I'm not using the microphone. Well, I am a new investor, and I heard that there's a lot of potential on here. And as far as like what type of business I would like to open, I come to the category of reception house. Okay, so it's been kind of my dream as a kid, you know, because I like servicing the public, you know. And I would like to kind of say that I am agreeing with Trustee Isaiah, Brandon, about the whole process. I feel it's a little too extreme. I feel we should kind of like observe before we kind of act on it a little bit. So kind of gives us, the little guys, a chance to kind of like put our feet and get ourselves a little bit like wet on the system, you know? And I see a lot of great potential in this town. And because, I mean, this town has a lot of hardworking people. And I would like to kind of like also give back, like jobs as well, you know? And so what I'm trying to get to is like, I think it should be less harsh on the, moratorium, sorry. And a little more on the observational instead of more enforcement, you know? So I'm sure a lot of new investors will be willing to cooperate with the village, you know? And so what I'm trying to say is, I guess, kind of like before we strike hard on it, I guess we should look at our business plans and see if we can review with you guys on your level when it comes to laws and ordinance before there's like a whole holdup, you know? And I do agree with Mr. Sanchez that there's going to be a lot of business I feel is going to suffer this too. And as far as the COVID, yes, I can say that I'm one of those who barely getting back on our feet with this, you know? So I feel that we should kind of consider heavily on that because we don't know what's going to happen down the line, if another virus or influenza or whatever's going to happen, let alone the global impacts that's happening out there with the war, you know? already we're having shortages when it comes to like supply and demand, and if we put this moratorium, yeah, I feel it's gonna really hold us back a little more as far as the community and economical level. So I guess this is my 2 cents on this opinion.
Thank you.
Adam, Ballet.
Hello, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I'm a business owner. I was trying to conduct the business at one of the locations on Roosevelt Road, and it's pretty much it's a mini mart with tobacco products in it, from tobacco general merchandise, accessories, premium cigars, in general like accessories. And I spoke to Ms. Johnson already about it, and she told me actually about the meeting today to explain more. So my question is, what's stopping me from doing that? She told me to wait until the meeting, and it's just I'm holding up time. And my landlord's actually still waiting on me right now, and I haven't even bored yet. So that's it. That's my question.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments?
Okay. All right, I forget the first gentleman's name, I'm sorry. Gibson? Daniel, sorry. So, Daniel, I understand your thought process in regards to the banquet hall. I think one of the biggest things when you say look and overview first, we have. So there's been 3 banquet halls or event spaces that has been shut down in the past couple of months because of problematic issues. But then that doesn't already take away from the fact that even with those 3 being shut down, we still have 6. So again, we do have the most banquet hall and event space in the Proviso Township and in the western suburbs. So that's one of those things that we really want to look at. I'm not quite sure what venue you're looking at, but even in looking at the ones that we have, they're all very close to each other. So that's why we're thinking about it. We did observe, we did have to change our ordinance to increase fines, to impose harsher fines on banquet hall and event space in this sense. We did have to have police presence at multiple different events. We did have to break up fights and arrest people at multiple different events. So it's not that we did not take the observation. Banquet hall and event space specifically is here because we do need to beef up on our banquet hall and event space ordinances, and we did so one by upgrading the fines and fees for different types of things. But we definitely, when it comes to banquet hall specifically, need to take a more finer glass on what we want the village of Maywood overall to look like when it comes to event space and banquet hall space. But thank you for your comments. For Adam, you're saying the Roosevelt Road tobacco shop. There's already a tobacco shop on Roosevelt Road, right? So in thinking about it from that perspective, that actually is one of the reasons that we do need to look at these types of ordinances and that we do need to do these types of evaluations, because it's not you're looking or thinking about putting a tobacco shop in a space that already doesn't have one. You know, when you look on Roosevelt Road from the village's standpoint, from a Maywood side, we're only 12 blocks on Roosevelt Road. But there's already a tobacco shop within that 12-block radius. So when we're thinking of from a comprehensive plan, what we would like to see on Roosevelt Road in a 12-block radius, 2 tobacco shops right next to each other is one of those things that seems like a little excessive. So that's the exact reason why we're having this discussion. And that's the exact reason why in April and May we will be having comprehensive plans, we'll be having community meetings, and we'll be having community discussions for something specifically just like that. So that's why these discussions are happening. But this is comments. I'm just responding to the public comments that were provided. All right, so, but thank you for your comment. 7, final question and comments by board members. Are there any final questions or comments by any board members?
Mayor?
Trustee Brandon.
Yeah, and I just want to further stress the point that, so there's not like a scenario where we have this line of businesses that are like outside of Village Hall rushing to open up some sort of establishment. So for me, I just don't understand why we are rushing to put this moratorium in place, and there's not like this influx of people trying to come in. And with the amount of, again, if I can stress the point, of vacancies that we have along Fifth Avenue, to allow those vacancies to continue to remain vacant, to continue to put a burden on those individuals who are taxpayers because they own those units, make it more difficult for them to be able to rent out the unit. I think and I believe that there's a better way that this village could handle this situation and to get a better grip on what we envision for this community versus having this blanket moratorium on those establishments that were listed. I strongly believe that there is a better way to do this, and I just think that this conversation started off originally. We were talking about having a chicken shack on every corner, and then it went from that to banquet halls, barbershops, and all of these other businesses as well. I just think it's a blanket situation. I think that we should take a better approach to this whole ordeal versus just pushing people out. There's not a line of people waiting to come in to do business. We want it to be, but that's not the case.
Okay.
Mayor?
Trustee Jones.
Yeah, I'm going to be quick. I do think there might be a better approach than a moratorium for what we're describing. Like, I think there's some, whether there's some code enforcement, like banquet halls operating not as banquet halls, I don't know if it's achieved if you stop. I don't think there's, I don't see that correlation. I think there's some code enforcement issues that we might need to do. If there's some within a certain area of the same business type of way that we want to look at it, I'd be okay with that. But I don't know if a moratorium. I think Maywood needs to be open to business to everyone. I think that needs to be the message. I think moratorium, unless it's going to somehow bring us the businesses that we need, like the grocery store or some of the other things, unless it's going to accomplish that, then I don't think a moratorium is the apparatus. I think we do need to look at our business in its entirety, that they have the proper licensing. I do agree with that. I do agree with this cleanup idea. I do agree with that. The moratorium part, I'm not following in terms of if it's going to cure our vacancy issue, because it doesn't sound like it's going to. It sounds like we're doing it to do a cleanup mechanism. If that's the case, I think we could do that without a moratorium. I don't think that's the right apparatus, but I would like to hear, before we vote, I think staff, they made a recommendation. I heard that they went through community development, so can we hear what the recommendation was, just so we can get understanding what, because they're the experts in this. I did think it was a good point about our business community. We're giving more restrictions to them, so are we comfortable moving forward with this in terms of what the impact is going to be to our mixed-use property owners, people that own commercial real estate? Are they kind of comfortable with this? Like, whether it would be?
Mayor.
Trustee Reyes.
Okay. So when it was brought to our committee, or when we brought it up, as I mentioned before, community and development was on board. It was actually a recommendation from them for the 6 months. And so in that sense, we went with their recommendation because technically they're the experts. So we went with their recommendation, and it is to bring in better businesses, per se, meaning a grocery store, meaning something different that we don't currently have. We also looked at the factor of other towns, surrounding towns, and they already have a moratorium on the amount of businesses we can have. Excuse me, hot. So if we don't have a moratorium on the amount of businesses, and we just keep allowing these businesses to come in, we're not really helping the cause. If that makes sense.
Wait, Trustee Sanchez.
Also, regarding the staff, when we did meet in our ordinance committee, the staff instructed us that there were inconsistencies in, I guess there's like a table or, I don't know the proper terminology. There's a table that is so antiquated that doesn't allow the community to move forward.
Yes.
So that was the whole purpose of restructuring the table and restructuring the ordinances so that we could have the business that this gentleman wants to have maybe in another location.
Correct.
Not to deter them from opening. So that was our side of it. So another issue was the distance. And for me, I kind of want to see your vision, trustee. It's difficult because you were the proponent of not having a chicken shack on every corner, but I feel like you're okay with having, say, a smoke or tobacco shop in every other corner. So I understand that you're saying that you don't want to shut down the opportunity for business, but I'm confused because you were okay with shutting down the opportunity to have a chicken shack. So if I'm allowed to ask him a question, I want to see your vision, and I understand that what you're saying is to not shut that door, but you have to look at it from another perspective. We're not shutting the door. We're making it a better community to serve these businesses, allowing them to operate in certain areas or fix our current mistakes, our current ordinances. Because if we continue to repeat these mistakes, how are we going to progress?
Thank you. So, a couple, wait, trustee.
Yeah, I have a question. Is 6 months actually the answer?
Yes.
That was given to us.
So what's the basis of the 6 months? That's my question. And is a moratorium actually the way we need to go? Those are my two questions.
So the basis of the 6 months is to do a study. And then in that study, we're going to find out the amount of businesses, the spaces between the businesses, and the locations. What? I'm sorry.
I'm just wondering how we got to a public hearing when we discussed this at a committee as a whole, and none of these questions were asked.
My bad.
So I'm just wondering how all of these conversations should have happened during the committee as a whole. These objections or these curiosities should have happened in the committee as a whole, because after it was discussed with staff, after it's discussed in committee, it's brought to the board, and the board is the actual board that voted for the public hearing. So I'm just trying to understand how we're having so much discussion now, almost 35 minutes into a meeting, when we as a board are the ones, nothing against, I mean, I understand trustee Graham did vote no, but that was the only vote, so I'm trying to understand why. There's a lot of dialogue, so that's right, but you could finish. I wasn't trying to interrupt.
No, it's good. And so for that basis, yes, the suggestion was the 6 months hold, and we went with it. We thought it was a good time to do a study and to put a hold on what we need to get other businesses in. It doesn't stop all businesses; it just stops certain businesses. So that's what you have to actually kind of weed through and pick apart. To be honest.
And Attorney Jules wanted to chime in on the 6 months as well.
The 6 months comes from Illinois court decisions that say the maximum amount of time that a moratorium can be in place is a 6 month period. And let me emphasize, that's a maximum. If you get your homework done, so to speak, in the next 60, 90 days, you can get to a point where your regulations are put together, and let's just say 90 days, the moratorium goes away in 90 days. So, 6 months is the outside. If we get after it and get everything done in the next 2 to 3 months, then the regulations can be implemented, the moratorium can be lifted.
I have a question. Are we willing to amend it?
So I think it's up to us, so it's up to us to do our due diligence. So like when we have our April meeting, when we have our May meeting, when we're working with the community development department, when we're establishing the new ordinances and policies, when we're bringing them to the committee as a whole to actually discuss, so that we're not having more public hearings like this. To move forward, it's up to us to do our due diligence to get those new ordinances passed so that we can do away with it. So we can do it in 60 days, we can do it in 90 days, we can take it up to 6 months, but it's up to us not to drag out the process. All right, are there any other final discussions?
Mayor,
Trustee Brandon?
but that time frame should be, you know, I already know what my vote's gonna be on this matter, but that time frame should be spelled out. We should not, give ourselves the maximum time period. And then, what else I'm concerned about, the steps, in regards to, who's gonna be leading these efforts, you know, who's gonna be reporting back, to this board on, what progress is, being made, on the matter as well. But we should not be looking at the max, of 6 months, and that should be in writing, as well, and not just saying, well, we just want to, you know, see how, no, it should be in writing as well, because people should not be on hold, or their business should not be on hold, because we're not doing what we can do on our end, and they have to, you know, sit in waiting or pending mode until we catch up on matters, or, you know, something may occur and it may not be a priority at that particular time. So for me, again, I'm against the whole concept of, especially when we're just coming out of the pandemic and people are recovering from all aspects, especially from, you know, when it relates to the business community, from the financial aspect. And so, yeah, I think there was a better way to do this, but again, I just think that it should be in writing for you guys who are going to be voting on this. It should be in writing about what time period, and it should not be the max time period, which is 6 months, for someone to be able to open up their business. And folks are preparing to try to bounce back from this pandemic.
So, Trustee Brandon, with that being is that a recommendation that you're making that would make you more inclined to vote yes for this? Or
No, I'm
is it
just
just a
saying,
statement?
no, but I'm just saying, with to Trustee Pepper's point, because he asked a question, and I'm just saying to my colleague, to get it in writing, you know, recommend something and, you know, put it in writing as far as what time period you think should suffice for whomever to be able to do their due diligence to investigate whatever needs to be investigated.
Okay. I think when we, just final thoughts. When you think of, we're having a meeting in April, we're having a meeting in May that takes us to 60 days. We're going to have a community meeting to have community discussion that takes us to 90 days. We'll have to have committee meetings and another CAL, which takes us to 120 days. So at the bare minimum, the thought process would be, it would be 120 days. And that's with being in the summer, during summer sessions. So that's just the thought process of even further, no more than 180 days. If we ended in 120 days, that's great. But here's the other thing. Trustee, if you could say, I would be willing to hold extra board meetings, I would be willing to have extra committee meetings to discuss this, if we can make it in 120 days, and then my vote will turn to yes, then that's a conversation. But if you're not saying that you're willing to even do that, then what are we talking about?
No, I'm willing to investigate, do the due diligence first, and then put in whatever needs to be put in place then, before I put a moratorium in place that's going to shut out businesses for the next 6 months. Do your due diligence, and then put in the proper pieces of whatever that needs to be put in place to then put the structure in place, but not shut folks down while we're doing our investigation and then coming back and, you know, it just don't make any sense. I think the due diligence comes first, and then you put in the necessary pieces, because like I stated, it's not like there's a long line outside of Village Hall where people are rushing to get in. I think that the village can do its due diligence. And this has happened before. And to even stress the point even more so, to have the amount of businesses that you're including in this. I was here on this board before when we did on barbershops. It was one particular business or two, not like several type of businesses all together. I don't think that putting all those businesses together is a good idea, and it's not. This doesn't make sense to me.
I mean, thank you for your comments, trustee. I also thank Community Development for doing their due diligence in regards to creating a new business license process, going through the auditing process, understanding where the problematic areas are in regards to various zoning issues that we have, acknowledging where we have different issues in regards to what certain licenses say there are to be versus what they actually operate as, operating hours, what they actually are approved to operate as versus what they choose to operate as. So I thank Community Development for doing their due diligence to even have this conversation with the Ordinance and Planning Committee, which led to the conversation to bring this to the entire board as a committee of a whole, to have this discussion, which actually was voted on to have this meeting tonight with the community. With that being said, if there are no other final questions or comments from the board, I'm going to look at 8, which is a motion to recommend approval of an ordinance to establish a temporary 180-day moratorium regarding the location, development, installation, construction, licensing, and operation of new barbershops, hair salons, nail shops, banquet halls, event space, tobacco shops, and fast food restaurants in the village of Maywood.
No votes for sure?
So I need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
All right, I have one motion to approve. I need a second. I have a motion to approve by trustee Reyes-Plummer. I have a second by trustee Lightford. Are there any questions? Can you please call the roll?
Trustee Sanchez,
Abstain.
trustee Reyes-Plummer,
Aye.
trustee Jones,
No.
trustee Lightford,
Aye.
trustee Peppers,
No.
trustee Brandon,
No.
and Mayor Booker.
Aye. All right. So that fails because of lack. Okay. So again, if we are knowingly going to vote no, please let's not bring this to a public hearing when we could have had these conversations during the committee as a whole when we actually had the conversation the first time. All right. So 9 is motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
I have a motion from trustee Brandon, second from trustee Reyes-Plummer. Are there any questions? All right, please call the roll.
Trustee Sanchez,
Aye.
trustee Reyes-Plummer,
Aye.
trustee Jones,
Aye.
trustee Lightford,
Aye.
trustee Peppers,
Aye.
trustee Brandon,
Aye.
Mayor Booker.
Aye. All right. So we will go into our regular special board meeting for March 22nd. Time is 7:41. Calling the room to order. Can you please call the roll?
Trustee Sanchez,
Here.
trustee Reyes-Plummer,
Here.
trustee Jones,
Here.
trustee Lightford,
Here.
trustee Peppers,
Here.
trustee Brandon,
Here.
and Mayor Booker.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right. We'll have the invocation actually given to us from Mr. Alexander Williams, and then we'll rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. So you're up, sir. Take the mic.
You might just have to speak up.
You just can't go up. It's a little basement rules.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
And good evening, people of Maywood. As some of you know me, I am Alexander Benjamin Williams.
We can't hear you.
You gotta hold it close to your mouth.
My name is Alexander Benjamin Williams. I'm 12 years old, 7th grade. I go to... Oh, okay.
Hold up. Okay, that's better.
Take a deep breath.
Alright.
You got this.
So basically, I'm 12. I go to middle school near me. It's Irving. I've won like 3 spelling bees. I've represented this whole village. So I did that. And I am here solely to read the prayer.
Amen.
Father, we come boldly to your throne of grace, interceding for the village of Maywood. We pray for a spiritual awakening in the hearts of Maywood residents. Thank you for preserving this village and bringing restoration, wholeness, and generational wealth to our community. Restore this generation's faith, passion, and ignite them in a holy fire that will destroy every demonic influence. Thank you, Father, that you have delivered Maywood out of the power of darkness and translated them into the kingdom of your dear Son. We bind every strong man that has held Maywood down. Let us keep divine judgment against the forces of darkness that cancel every satanic operation. We thank you that the works of the enemy are destroyed and we declare that Jesus is Lord. We plead the blood of Jesus over Maywood and its residents and declare in heaven that heavenly angels have given charge over this village to protect it. We thank you that the body of Christ has been released as laborers have consent to Maywood preaching the gospel, bringing healing to the brokenhearted, deliverance to the captives, and liberty and restoration to the bruised. Let the outpouring of the Holy Spirit consume them with wisdom, prosperity, truth, love, joy, peace, righteousness, faithfulness, and holiness that will manifest God's kingdom and bring forth revival to the land. Father, we know that your word will not return to us void, and you will accomplish everything you sent into Maywood. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So wait a minute, Alexander. So I'm actually going to move us over to 6, which is oath, reports, proclamations, announcements, and appointments. We'll get back to our minutes, but his sole purpose is actually not just here to do the confession. We're actually providing a certificate of achievement to Alexander for winning the spelling bees. Congratulations on winning first place at the 12th Annual West 40 South Cook Intermediate Service Center ICS Scripps Spelling Bee. We are very proud of your accomplishments and we wish you continued success. Village of Maywood, Mayor Nathaniel George Booker, and Board of Trustees, March 22nd, 2022.
Maywood. Thank you. Congratulations,
It's always great to acknowledge our youth that are doing great things in the community.
Yes.
So anytime we are able to acknowledge anyone and anyone who's watching, if you have a youth that's doing great things in the community, please let us know so that we can celebrate them. All right, so while we're still under announcements, appointments, and proclamations, just want to let everybody know by now, everyone should have received in the mail for beginning April 1st, the Village of Maywood Waste and Recycle and Yard Collection has been switched over to LRS. So right now, they are switching out the trash bins. Everyone should have received that they will be receiving a 65-gallon recycle bin, which is 4 times the amount of what our previous trash bin was, as well as a 95-gallon trash. So you'll have 65-gallon for recycle, 95-gallon for trash. If you desire to have a second bin of 95 gallons, it's simply $3 a month for you to add an additional bin. You would just need to go. So there's waste guidelines, excess garbage, bulk items. You'll still be allowed to put your bulk items out. Well, they'll pick them up on a weekly basis instead of us waiting for yard pickup day or fall or spring trash pickup day. You'll be able to put your items out on a weekly basis. The holidays that they'll be acknowledging, that will be the rotation is New Year's, Independence Day, Thanksgiving, Memorial Day, Labor Day, and Christmas. You also have, you should have received in the mail where it showcases the map over switching to a 4-day market, so that the reality is if there is a time where trash may not have been picked up, it will be easier for them to come in and swoop it up instead of having to travel back in and give us travel excess fees. So one thing to note about this new contract that we've done with LRS, the reality is just on one line item, we save over $15,000 a month. So LRS is a 5-year contract that we're doing. So realistically, just with one line item, we're saving over $500,000. We will be saving a whole lot more money once we focus more so on our recycle focus, which is why we've increased from, I think it was like a little 12 or 15-gallon bin to a 65-gallon bin, because with those types of savings, we can also save within our trash as well. So look out for more updates in regards to, on a monthly basis, reporting how much we have saved and how much more we can save, and as well as going into more green space and making sure that we focus more on recyclable. So that's just an announcement for everyone to be aware of. And then we had comments from Trustee Reyes-Plummer.
Yes, I want to give a shout out to the Maywood Park District. This weekend they held a women's conference that was spectacular and amazing for the women of Maywood and outside of Maywood. It was a great event, and I just wanted to say thank you and good job. I have one more. Sorry, I know I can take this one. Also, Stairway of the Stars will be hosting a Cinderella ballet show on April 2nd at Trinity High School. So if you guys can, bring your family out. And I think tickets are like $15 each. Kids are $5. Bring them out to come see it. It's a really nice event. That's it. 7 o'clock. Yes.
All right. Then we also have comments from Village Manager Rose Armstrong.
Okay, I just thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to take some time to introduce our new Director of Community Development, Ruben Feliciano. If you could please stand. Ruben, would you like to come to the mic and just give a brief background about where you're from? And okay, thank you.
Good evening, Board of Trustees and community. My name is Ruben Feliciano. I am an urban planner. I have a master's degree in urban planning and a bachelor's degree in Latin American Latino studies with a minor in political science. I'm very passionate about justice, about equity. I've been an equity proponent as it relates to affordable housing. Did a lot of work, grew up in Humboldt Park. I now live in Maywood, so I am a Maywood resident, effective last week. So I'm excited to be here, excited to roll up my sleeves and get to work.
Thank you, Ruben.
Thank you, Ruben.
Thank you.
And I just want to welcome Ruben. As you all have talked about tonight, I just want you all to know that I am hearing you as a board in regard to your concerns. The issues with community development go back a number of years, and we're trying to put in some tools and strategies that will allow us to clean up some of the issues around businesses in the community. So I'll be reaching out to you all, and please reach out to me so that we can come up with a solution. The intention is not to harm any business owners, but we need time to be able to get a grasp on all of these issues around zoning and uses and some other matters. And we only can do that if we have tools in place, such as ordinances and use tables and those different types of things. So feel free to reach out to me on those issues. But we have a lot of work to do in this department, and I'm looking forward to Ruben's, Director Feliciano's leadership. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So 5, we'll go back. Approval of minutes for the special board meeting of the Board of Trustees for Tuesday, February 15th and Wednesday, March 9th, 2022.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Trustee Brandon. I need a second.
Second.
And a second by Trustee Jones. Are there any questions? All right. Call the roll, please.
Trustee Sanchez.
Aye.
Trustee Reyes-Plummer.
Aye.
Trustee Jones.
Aye.
Trustee Lightfoot.
Aye.
Trustee Peppers.
Aye.
Trustee Brandon.
Aye.
And Mayor Woodruff.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Item 7, a presentation regarding monthly financial report for the month of March 2022 in the amount of $2,282,079.11 by Lonnie Satcher, Director of Finance. As well as, discussion concerning the Village of Maywood open invoices March 15, 2022 in the amount of $16,692.84.
So basically on page 9, you have a list of the vendors that we're presenting for payment. So if you have any questions surrounding those, I'm just here to answer those for you.
Are there any questions? All right, so this will be on the omnibus agenda. Thank you so much, Director Satcher. All right, 8, public comment. So for 8 for public comment, you have 3 minutes to provide a comment. You do not have to provide your address, but you do have to provide your name, and we'll go in the order in which you submitted.
Jim Gardner. Yes, sir.
The one and only.
Good evening, board.
Good evening,
All
sir.
the village officials and all everybody in the audience. I come to you this evening. I thought I would be able to speak at the last meeting. I was just informed that I would not be able to do a public comment, so I think that would be something new that's happening tonight. I wanted to speak on the fact that of the moratorium. The moratorium could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. I think, first of all, my name is James Gardner. I'm a businessman here in Maywood. I've been in Maywood since 1985. We have a big problem with taxes in Maywood. I have a copy of the tax records. We have so many people that owe back taxes, and they don't even live in Maywood. We got one person that owed $1,724,724.56 in taxes. We have 4 people that owe $700,000 in back taxes. We got 2 that owe $500,000 in back taxes. We got another 2 that owe $400,000 in back taxes. We got 10 that owe $300,000 in back taxes. And we got 6 that owe $200,000 in back taxes. As a realtor, I have a client that's 73 years old. His mom and dad passed away and left him a house. We listed the house, we put it on the market for sale. His mom and dad didn't owe any money on the house. The mortgage was paid off. He was behind $50,000 in taxes. So we put it on the market for $100,000. We got a buyer. The buyer's going to buy it, but he could not pay the back taxes of $125,000. That is because of the increase in penalties that he could not pay the $50,000 that he owed on the house. He was willing to pay the county $50,000, but because of the fact of not being able to pay the $59,000 or $60,000 in penalties, we could not sell this house. So I do know that in 2014, and I know the village attorney has a good memory because I was reading the paper, that he remembered the moratorium that we had.
Mr. Garland,
Your time is up.
your time is up.
Before I leave, can I just pass these out? This is a contract that was signed by the village.
You can hand them to Trustee Grant, he'll pass them down.
This is a contract that was signed by the village.
Mr. Garland, we can take the copies. Let me take those for you. I'm gonna take all of them. We're gonna take all of them. All right, next public comment, please.
If I can have a little bit more time, I need for people to see this.
So we have another public comment coming up, Mr. Gardner. Thank you so much, Mr. Gardner.
Shut me down, shut me down. No, that's not it. Yeah, that's it. What is it, moratorium?
Can you turn the mic on? You can turn it around, then you can make it. There you go.
Is it plugged on the floor? On the floor?
It's on.
You gotta hold it close.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Okay. My name is Sandra Gibson, and I'm here, bashing Jim Gardner here on the issue that he mentioned. Okay, I've been a Maywood homeowner for 20 years, and I spoke at the public comments in the past regarding the village Maywood's need to address vacant houses in the village, one that Jim was speaking about. So Maywood has missed out on millions of dollars in uncollected real estate taxes and interest from properties that owners want to sell but cannot because they owe more in back taxes than the property is worth. Okay. On top of that, most of these properties have outstanding water bills, code violations, and heating repairs that the owners don't have the money to pay. Often these properties are left vacant and abandoned without property taxes being paid for years. I recently attended the Cook County Scavenger tax sale auction, February 16th, where over 150 Maywood properties, including houses, two-flat, commercial properties, and vacant lots, with anywhere from 4 years to 20 years of delinquent real estate taxes, were auctioned off for the old real estate taxes. The delinquent taxes on each of these properties range from $1,000 to $2.1 million. I watched attendees bid to pay anywhere from 5% to 25% of the delinquent taxes due on these Maywood properties. We have got to do something about that. Don't let properties sit and wait for the Cook County Land Bank to rescue them. When the land bank acquires village properties, the village receives zero in delinquent property taxes. Today, I'm here with Jim and Viola to ask the village manager, mayor, and Lightning Satchel to help us help the village to collect the delinquent taxes on this owner's house by meeting with us to discuss what the village can do to make the sale of this house a reality. Give us a call to schedule a meeting, please. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lucille Redmond.
Lucille Redmond is my name.
Welcome back.
I want to say, first of all, great presentation by the village manager when she first came on board, talking a good game. Every hair on her wig was intact. facial wall paint impeccable, well-dressed, glass slippers and all. That's a list, that you put lipstick on the kid, it's still a kid. The village manager does not live within the 15-mile radius, which is stated in the village code. It is an all-out insult that this village manager is handing out jobs to people that don't even live in this community, and the jobs are not posted. What's being done about that? First of all, she said in her presentation that she has 1 year to come within the 15-mile radius. Well, that should be over in June. So if she's not within the 15-mile radius in June, what will happen? Will she be marched out also? I submit that she should be. Now, some people say the law says touch to touch. What I have here does not say touch to touch. It says within a 15-mile radius. This village manager lives in Bolingbrook, which is 22.3 miles from Maywood. Now, if Bolingbrook touches Maywood someplace, I'd like to know where. Okay? Why is she being allowed to give out all these jobs, first of all, without posting them? Second of all, to all of these Latino people. I have nothing against Latinos, but you need to be fair. And you need to stop, I mean, it's an insult that you could find anybody of any intelligence here in Maywood to give these jobs to. That's an insult. There must be somebody here. I mean, I'm not looking for a job. I have a job already.
All right.
I'm not looking for a job, but there should have been somebody here in Maywood that could have filled this position. Now here you got a new human resource person and this, that, and other stuff. Why? Why are you allowing her to do this? Why are you allowing this village manager to break all the laws? Not living within the 15-mile radius, handing out jobs that are not posted. We didn't even have a chance to even bid on these jobs. Like I said, I'm not looking for a job. If I was, I wouldn't be looking for one to make. I never have, and I always encourage my children not even look for a job to make it, because I know the politics that's going on here. What else? Oh, not only that, she had the taxpayers of this village locked out of the village hall because of the COVID. Well, that's Johnny come lately. The COVID is damn near over. Here, she had people standing outside in inclement weather while they locked up in there. Some of these overpaid employees locked up in there, and we stand outside in the cold. I refuse to stand out there because I know, I'm not that kind of person. I'm not going to stand out there for anybody. I do have a home. And there's another thing too. Get here tonight, here they have created another handicap parking space. How does that happen? Thank you. I still want to know, how does that happen? If you don't have a handicap poster, you need to park where we park to.
Thank you.
Chris Anthony Sharp.
Good evening, board. My name is Chris Anthony Sharp. I live at 136 South 11th Avenue in Maywood. I'm with Miss Redden. We want to know, all these people in this village, we've got a lot of educated people here. Why can't we get some of them? You don't even post it. Come on now. You guys are sitting up here and we voted you in. Just like we voted you in, what can we do? We can vote you out.
All right now.
We're asking that you allow some of these educated young people with masters, degrees, and other things to come in here and run this village. Our village manager, yes, she came in. Our mayor brought her in. But it seems like our mayor's having a problem now. So my thing is, we need to do what we need to do. Don't just sit up there and say, yeah, okay, we're going to vote like this. Vote because we need you to vote. Not because you're thinking this is what we should do because we're friends. You're not friends. What you are, you belong to us. We're your puppet master. And we want you to do your job. Not just sit up here and say, oh, he wanted us to vote like this. Okay, I'm going to vote like this. Stop it. Do what you need to do. barbershop. We need a grocery store. We don't need this other stuff you guys keep talking about. I get tired of coming up here listening to you talk about nothing. And that's pretty much what it is. Nothing. Give us what we need, not what you think we should have. I thank you for your time.
Mr. Moore? I don't have a first name.
He had to leave. He had to leave.
Edwina Perkins?
Mayor, trustee, clerk, village manager. I, Edwina Perkins, former mayor, Mayor Booker, know that you can thank your Caucasian attorney, Mr. Jeruzzi, who bullied me, a black woman, when I became mayor. He changed Maywood's ordinance by taking the mayor duties and giving them to the village manager. He has the paperwork because he gave them to me. I did not have the black trustee support, but your Caucasian attorney, Jeruzzi, did. Again, you can thank him that you cannot be the mayor and the village manager all at the same time. Attorney Jeruzzi, karma is a monster. And to the village manager, just get your job description and follow it. You do not have to fight with the mayor because he's only got certain powers, and you need to find out what you can and cannot do. And that's called doing your homework. And I'm asking the question, I've asked it before and have not gotten that information. When will we get the information about how the money that we receive, how it's going to be spent? Thank you.
Gloria Clay?
Good evening, Board. Most of what I was going to say and talk about has been talked about, but I'm going to come from a different angle. If you don't mind, it may take me a little bit more than 3 minutes, but it's something that I feel needs to be said to everybody. First of all, I want to know, to the trustees, all of them, did you actually read the book that I think Mr. Jerusalem had it, the job description of a trustee, what a trustee's job and duties are as a trustee in the village of Maywood? If you did not read that, I suggest that you do get it and read it. I'm only going to call a name because it's already in the newspaper, the trustee Brandon. When you guys had having been a trustee before, I was a trustee in the village of Maywood, the first African American I might add, came to hold that seat. That's where we're sitting at right now. But my question is, why did you feel necessary to go to the papers and talk about what he's talked about in executive session? We should not know that as residents. This is something that you trustees as our legislative body is supposed to get back there and come to an agreement with, number one. Number two, I understand how politics work. I've been in politics a very long time and probably forgot more than some of you guys are going to learn. But as people that are in a political position, I think that you should realize and why we are, and I guess this question goes out to the village manager. Why did you find it necessary? You introduced a young lady to us that was going to be a human resource person. That person is gone. We did not know she was gone. But then another gentleman comes in as a resource person. human resource that knows nothing about municipality, has never been in a municipality. As far as I don't know this to be a fact, I'm just asking a question. All the jobs that were given out, when Angela left on Friday, her job was filled on Monday. Why were these jobs not posted? And I'm not even saying in the village of Maywood, I'm saying in the Proviso Township area. Surely we got some people in that area, not necessarily African Americans, I'm talking about any nationality. I'm not hung up on African Americans or anything else, but I just feel like something better could have been done as far as not loading Maywood down with Kankakee and the other suburbs out that way. We have people here that know exactly what to do and how. I don't need to pay nobody's fee in of $4,500, $4,500 to bring the village manager here, unpack her, pack her up, and then unpack her again. For her to come and tell me that I don't have enough sense to govern my own body, build my own town. I don't need that. And I think it's unfair of her and unfair of all of you to allow that to happen when you, 6 people, and the mayor, are going to go, I'll help you sit down in a minute. But you're going to come right back to my door, knocking on my door in another year, asking me for your vote. Why should I vote for you when you allow this kind of stuff to happen in Maywood? You're telling the people in Maywood and Proviso Township that you all are dumb. I understand that, and I just told you I was going to be alone in 3 minutes.
You asked your 3 minutes, Ms. Clay.
Okay. I still say,
Please, Ms. Clay.
do what's right.
Thank you.
Do what's right and give these people what they are paying you to do, not what politics tell you to do. Politics do make strange prejudices.
Mayor, that's the end of public comment.
Okay. All right. So, Mr. Gardner, to address in regards to your aspects of what's on the scavenger list, you all are correct. There were about 191 pins on the scavenger list for the village of Maywood. There has been conversation and meetings with the Cook County government. We've had meetings with Treasurer Pappas, Assessor Katie, as well as the Cook County Land Bank in regards to how can we clean up properties that, to everyone's point, has been sitting on the tax rolls as unpaid for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Right. If I had not paid my property taxes for 20 years, I wouldn't still have my house. So when you look at, I think you said 1.5, the property that has the most is 2.2 million in delinquency. So we've been having those conversations. We are looking for ways from a legislative standpoint. Did also have had conversations with Commissioner Johnson, who represents our district, for legislation to be changed on the county side, as well as Speaker Welch, as well as Senate Majority Leader, for state legislation to be changed. There are a lot of laws and legislation that covers these things and protects these things. Realistically, when you look from a state level to a local level to a county level, it's hard. I mean, even when you think of the scavenger sale aspect, you potentially buy a property and then it still has to sit in the community for 2 years, or nobody buys the property and it sits for even longer, and that's how you get to 15 to 20 years of property getting up to $2.2 million that isn't even worth $300,000. So, wholeheartedly agree. That's why last year we held, even in the middle of COVID, we held 5 in-person events where we talked about property taxes, and we held several Zooms where we talked about property taxes. We've been having multiple conversations about property taxes because I've made it no secret that we are the highest tax community in the western suburbs and one of the highest tax communities in Cook County. And in order for us to attract new homeowners, in order for us to attract families, in order to attract businesses, we need to be more intentional about getting our properties that are not on the tax roll back on the tax roll. So I'm not familiar with the specific property that you and Senator have been speaking about, but I welcome the conversation. I welcome sitting down to discuss it so that we can see what can be done about it. We have worked with different properties that we addressed on a county level and worked with Commissioner Johnson's office to get those properties. I mean, there was even one of them on an auction sale. So we have worked with those different properties. We do work very closely with Commissioner Johnson's office to work on a county level to address those things. So I welcome the conversation of whichever property that you guys are referring to. so we could definitely schedule a meeting. Same thing, Ms. Gibson, in regards to the vacant homes. It's not just thinking about the businesses that have been vacant for years, but also the properties that have been vacant for years. Because as it stands now, Cook County has now eliminated the funding program that allows us to do the board ups and the grass cutting that we've been able to do in the past for these abandoned properties. So now it's like, we actually, instead of looking at them boarded up or just making sure that the grass is cut, we need to get behind that and get in front of those properties to make sure that we're actually getting them back on the tax roll. So those are the meetings that we're having to make sure that we're doing those things. And I definitely look forward to updates in regards to that coming soon. Ms. Redmond, thank you for your comments. Ms. Chrysanthemy Sharp, you gave a comment in regards to we need a grocery store. So there will be at the April 5th CAL conversations in regards to grocery stores because there is interest in the grocery market. And at this point, I think it would be best to move forward in a certain direction. So I'm sure you'll be at the April 5th meeting, so you'll learn more about that. And anyone is welcome to learn more about it. But the goal is to bring a grocery store to the village of Maywood. To your point, as you all said, we have spoken about the chicken shacks, the barbershops, the banquet halls. One thing to point out is when you're trying to attract a grocery store and the grocery store owner comes and says, you guys don't reflect an environment that wants a grocery store because you have so many of the same types of businesses, that's where the conversation comes into play of do we need more of these same types of businesses? Or when they say you have so many convenience stores that have grocery, it makes it problematic for us. You don't have a North Avenue corridor, you don't have a big chunk of the Roosevelt corridor, you don't have a Cermak, so it makes it harder for them to say this is a profitable market to bring a grocery store into when they don't see the other viable businesses coming into it. So when we work with the professionals of community development that say we need to look into capping, freezing, moratorium, whatever special wording we're talking about, it's looking at professionals trying to help us move our community forward and being intentional about it. Mayor Perkins, not quite sure where you're coming from with saying that Attorney Jerusik was the person who caused that. The change of form of government took place in the late 70s.
Yes.
So Attorney Jerusik was not the attorney,
Yes.
Nor did he lead the referendum in the 1970s.
Yes. You don't know what you're talking about.
Okay. All right, so the change of form of government went from, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the change of form of government went from strong mayor form of government to village manager council form of government in the 1970s. I don't want to speak any further about how I personally feel about it because it personally affects me. So you also talked about you wanted to know where the ARPA funding was coming from or what we're doing with the ARPA dollars. So realistically, we just all came back from the National League of Cities Conference where we'll all be having different comments and presentations to give at the committee as a whole in regards to what we learned. Right now, we have not really spent any of our ARPA funding except for hiring a survey company called POCO. The survey company will be sending out surveys to the residents in regards to how to best spend the $3.1 million in ARPA funding that we have received, that we have 4 more fiscal years to spend. We don't have to burn a hole in our pockets and spend that money right now. There is also a lot of still federal, state, and county funding in ARPA funding that we can get to first, again, before we start spending our own funding. We have a great opportunity to be intentional with our ARPA funding while also making sure that we're partnering with our federal, state, and county officials to make sure that we get that ARPA funding before we start spending ours. And then Ms. Clay, message received. Thank you for your comments.
Mayor?
Trustee Brandon.
Yeah, I wanted to, because Ms. Clay had a concern, something that I was involved in, so I want to make sure that I provide some clarity for her. Ms. Clay, thank you so much for your concerns in regards to me confirming that what meeting I attended. So I was called to attend an emergency meeting. I didn't know what the premises of that meeting was until I arrived there. And so, of course, I could not go into deep detail on the details of that meeting, but I was able to confirm what the purpose of that meeting was about. And that's exactly what I did. I think it's very important that we protect, and we say that, because it happened in executive session, it was related to employee-related matters, that we respect confidentiality. But I only provided an overview of what meeting I was really just confirmed, because it was already out there, because it was whispers already in the community. And I was called and asked a question, and I confirmed the topic of that meeting. And I want to thank you for that. And it's important that the residents are aware and informed on, as much as possible on things of that nature, so that we can collectively help correct the culture that's being created in our community. And I also just want to thank you. I heard you mention, and you had me to remember a flashback really fast of that you are the first African American woman who was elected to serve here in the village of Maywood. I had a flashback when we did the Know Your Heritage competition that happened. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Over in 200 building, we had students from School District 89 to participate, and you were there involved in that, and we honored you at that particular event. So we want to thank you for your service as we continue to celebrate women throughout our community. Thank you so much. God bless.
Trustee Green, I just want a point of clarity. Your article did much more than confirm a meeting took place. The entire article is quoted with what you spoke of to the attorney and the news media. So it was a closed session meeting. You did go out of closed session. This is a centrable offense. But I just want to be clear. We don't want to mislead the community that you did not actually give an entire interview to the news press. I just want that to be said. Anybody can read it. It's not up for debate.
So I know, and let me correct you, Mayor. I confirmed what was already out there. I was confirming because I received a call. Can you confirm? Yes, I can confirm that I was invited to an emergency meeting that I knew nothing about on a Wednesday, wasting my time and my energy coming to a meeting that I knew nothing about. Simply because there's a culture of overreach here in the village of Maywood. So when you call me to an emergency meeting, you waste my time simply because you're trying to do everybody's job but your job. I am going to confirm it.
Sure. Like I said,
and we're going to continue to correct the culture that's being created in this community. And I look forward to working with my board colleagues in doing that. Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it.
Yep. Just wanted to say for record.
Thank you.
Anybody can read the article. Manager
Read
Rose
it.
Armstrong.
I'm not the first to be today. Read it.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to address some of the comments that were made tonight because there's a false narrative occurring in this community. Since COVID, it has been challenging to hire across all sectors, not just in municipalities, and school districts, and the private sector, corporations, and law firms everywhere. We have been really working on trying to fill positions. I have made several announcements in board meetings that we have jobs available. I have asked the community and I have asked the board and staff to refer anyone, and if you all know of anyone that's qualified for any of the open positions, please refer them. I am very mindful to hire people who look like and live in this community. I'm very mindful of that. And I'm unapologetic about it, but I have to hire qualified people. We post jobs on NeoGov, Indeed, LinkedIn, and depending on the position, if it's related to finance, it's posted on GFOA and ILGFOA, which is the Government Finance Officers Association. We use IML. We use the Blue Line for police. We use a number of professional associations. We are also reaching out to universities for some of the positions that we have available. So that is a false narrative that we don't post. We also, in this administration, have started posting internally for 5 days. That was not happening before. When we had a position come open in Maywood, we post now internally for 5 days to give the current employees an opportunity to apply for those positions. So that is a false narrative that I would like to correct. In terms of where I live, that was confirmed that I am within the boundary. I moved within 4 months, though I have a year in my contract to be within Maywood's jurisdiction. In regard to, let me see here, ARPA funding for Mayor Perkins. POCO contacted both Ms. Banks and I yesterday. We are finalizing the marketing materials that will be going out to the community. There's going to be some postcards going out to the residents, and we are finalizing that within the next few days to get those out to the residents. Once you all have the postcards, you will have an opportunity to complete them and give us your feedback, which will then inform the board and the operations team of how we want to direct the funding. So this is all a process. Let me think, is there anything else that I did not cover? Oh, in regard to the HR director, the current HR director has municipal government experience. So that's another rumor and another false narrative that's in the community. The previous director who was here did not have municipal government experience. But again, it has been difficult to hire and fill these positions. So sometimes we hire someone that doesn't have the experience, they have a learning curve, and we give them an opportunity to meet the standards. And sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. But our current HR director, who has never lived in the city of Kankakee, has municipal experience and over 15 years of HR experience. So I just want you all to know the truth and have the facts, because these are false narratives that are in the community and that are being spread throughout the community. Thank you, Mayor.
My only question.
So, wait, Ms. Clay, I got, just to give you clarity.
Okay.
No, the Human Resources Director position was not posted. No, the Community Development position was not posted. While he has not ever lived in Kankakee, he is the former HR Director for Kankakee. The Community Development Director is the position that you're referring to in regards to never working for municipal government, not the HR Director. So just for transparency and clarity, the two positions that you came and referred to, no, they were not posted.
Why?
Why?
That is something that will have to be discussed at a later time, because we can't discuss that right now. But Ms. Clay, I'm giving you clarity.
I'm sorry.
But we can't talk during this meeting, right? So I'm just giving clarity. So out of transparency, to not speak on false narratives, but to speak on facts. So that's what I want to clear up. Say, yes, there have been other positions posted, but for the specific positions that you mentioned, Ms. Redmond, and specific positions that you mentioned, no, they were not.
And I'm going to correct that we sometimes post positions and we don't disclose the village because of sensitive matters around filling that position. The community development position has been posted.
My only question I was asking was it posted on the village website?
No.
And that's what most people in this area
Ms. Clay,
Ms.
Clay,
look at.
I got you, but
Thank you very much.
you got your answer. The answer is no, it's not posted on the Village of Maywood.
That's crazy. We didn't live in Maywood.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we'll go to 9, no village president report. 10, village manager's report. 10A, presentation by CS Strategies regarding health insurance premiums and booklet handout.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Manager Wills Armstrong.
Sorry, thank you, Mayor. At this time, I would like to thank our team. We are very intentional about working together, and our Director of HR has worked very closely with our provider, CS Strategies. We have some good news for you tonight, and I would like to bring forth Charles and Sandra. They've been great partners with the Village of Maywood. They've been very mindful of the burdens that people are facing right now. Cars are expensive, gas is expensive, food's expensive, and we worked really closely with them to keep the premiums down. So I'm going to turn it over. Before I forget, I know Charles is having a birthday sometime soon, or had a birthday.
His birthday was Saturday.
Okay, so happy birthday. I remember from our conversation that you were having a birthday, so just wanted to acknowledge your birthday, wish you happy birthday, and we will turn it over. CS Strategies has provided the board with a booklet so that you all can follow, and they're going to give us a presentation tonight on the work they've been able to do for us moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Village Manager, Mayor, Trustees, good evening. Should I start? Are we good?
Yeah, you start.
Okay.
Start.
Okay. Some of the trustees I know
sort of a background on our company, what we do for the village of Maywood, sort of who we are as an organization, and go from there. Is that okay? And I'll try and be brief. I won't waste a lot of time. My name is Charles Smith. Born and raised in Chicago, but when I was 15, my family moved to Maywood. I graduated from Proviso West. So I know the community. You know, I spent a lot of time going to Proviso West tournaments and Proviso East games. You know, and I learned a lot about this community. I've been in the insurance industry now 27 years. We talked a little bit about my birthday. Most people say, Charles, you look really young. And I tell them, I feel every age, every year of my 44 years. There's no question about it. But when we originally came to the village of Maywood, we were working on the property and casualty side with Alliance Metro. We still do some work with them. But the village gave us an opportunity to handle the group employee benefits on our own. First, I want to thank you all for this opportunity because I think we've done a pretty good job, but I want to talk about what we've done historically. So our company, because I've been in the insurance industry so long, I work on the carrier side. In 2007, I got a chance to start the Chicago office of the largest life-owned brokerage in the country. In 2009, I purchased the agency, sort of hunkered down downtown, started an office in Philly, we moved that over to Philadelphia, to New York, and then we bought a business in LA. In my industry, you grow organically, but you also acquire other brokerages. That's how the largest brokers in the world have done it. We focus on commercial property and casualty, group employee benefits, and risk management. When we came to the village of Maywood, the one thing that we promised was transparency, but we also know that you guys, in addition to us, have to be good stewards of taxpayer money. And in addition to that, you need all of your partners, everyone that you do business with, to give back to the community as well. So every time I've done a presentation, the one thing we talk about outside of where the numbers are is what we've done in the community, how we sponsor things, and we'll talk about that tonight as well. As an organization, we believe in corporate citizenship. It's important to us. I believe in the Black community. I think we need to be supporting each other, so I want to thank you for supporting me, and we'll continue to support you. In regards to our actual numbers, we have some good news tonight, as the village manager talked about. They've been very collaborative with us. In fact, every village manager we've worked with has been collaborative with us. I think everybody understands how important your dollars are. I can't speak to personalities or anything like that, but when it comes to the business of medical insurance, your ancillary benefits, it's a serious deal to everybody, including all the trustees. It's been like that from day one. What I like to report is that you're actually getting a decrease on your medical this year. And what's so exciting about this account is that this isn't the first time we've come and said there's a decrease. So over the last 5 years, we're running less than 2% as an increase to your benefits. And trend is really around 6 or 7%. But we have an outlier here. We had last year was our worst year based on a bunch of different factors. A lot of it was COVID and claims. But we had a 10% increase last year. And that was a tough increase for us because typically you've seen, like I said, less than 2%. If you take that 10% out, your rates are pretty much where they were when we first started, which is astronomical in regards to pricing and where inflation is and where the value of the dollar is today. When we looked at this renewal, they came in at 5%. Our goal is, regardless what Blue Cross comes back to us with, that we will negotiate. We will never just say, hey, that's good. We're appreciative that it's not 10%. We go back to Blue Cross and we say, hey, we still need to get this down. We went back to them, they came down, I think, 1-something% maybe, something like that. So we came, or they may have said no change. We may have gotten even.
And then even, and then you kept fighting.
Right, so the morning that Sandra scheduled the meeting to come to Maywood with the village manager, she called me and I'm like, Sandra, where are these rates? She was like, Charles, we got a pass, we're in a good position. I was like, you know what, let me play bad guy here. So I called Blue Cross and I said, listen, I'm really trying to get this done. At the end of the day, we could market this account to United Healthcare, we could look at other opportunities, but the village manager, the village staff, and the trustees, I think they like consistency, they like their plan. What can we do to potentially close this deal today? That's how we got that additional 1.5 points. The point I'm trying to make is that we never stop, and we never will. On your dental, so I think the savings is about $80,000-$90,000. On the dental went up, I think, 2.4%. if I'm not
It was
mistaken.
5 originally, and then
We started at 5, we negotiated that down. I think it's about a $4,000 increase. So it's insignificant compared to the medical. The life insurance stayed the same. For us, when we look at these types of renewals, we get excited, because it's not easy. When you talk about medical, it's probably one of your top 5 or 10 expenses that you have in the village. And that's important. I know when we spoke earlier, when you first got elected, you talked about the importance of maintaining costs, making sure that we do a good job, and all your vendors, need to be proactive in the community. I like Sandra to talk about what we've done in the community. You probably are tired of seeing her. She comes to village meetings. She's here all the time.
I absolutely love the Village of Maywood, and I try as often as possible to think of reasons to come out here. We were at Maywood Fest. They put me, right next to the senior citizen tent, and we were there. We were there, doing blood pressures, doing BMIs, passing out masks to people who didn't have a mask and wanted one. Just passing out information about healthy eating, about limiting salt. Our community as a group, I'm included, probably use a little bit too much salt. Drinking more water, just giving information out that would be helpful to keep people healthy. We give to the Back to School program. Charles is extremely committed to the youth. So anything that has to do with the youth, Charles, is a strong contributor to. We, got our call from Ms. Banks saying, I want you to be a sponsor, and it's like, how much you need? And we were right there. We gave to the Miracles in Maywood. We did the mentoring program. So, and that's for the community. But in addition to that, we also feel that keeping the employees healthy is important. So our new HR director said, well, what can we do? It's February. That's Heart Healthy Month. What do you guys want to do about that? So we came out and we had a great big, campaign for Heart Healthy. Again, passing out information about how to live and eat and behave in healthy methods, and also giving blood pressure, taking blood pressure, talking about how important it is to keep a healthy blood pressure. We did BMIs so that you could get, just a sense of how your BMI is. And look at that, we had people who had good news from that information, and some who, admitted that they could do some more.
So, as Sandra is always excited, so thank you, Sandra. Before we open it up for any questions that you may have, I do want to introduce someone that I've worked with in the past. Before I became an entrepreneur, the reason I became an entrepreneur it wasn't because I was the smartest in the room. It wasn't because, someone gave me a pot of money or a pot of gold, as people say. It's really because I was in corporate America. So I worked at insurance carriers from 1995 to 2007. And at all of these carriers, I just wanted to get raised, and I just wanted to get into sales. And they say I look young now. Imagine 25 years ago, they said, "Where are you going to sell to?" You look like a kid. They never believed in me. What it did for me though was it motivated me, and I said, if it can't be in sort of where it's lack of diversity here, maybe I need to find my own way, which is why I started my company. But the last company that I worked for, I worked with John Hughes. And he worked with MetLife. I used to work with MetLife, and he worked with Dearborn National, which is a Blue Cross company. And for 2007? For 15 years, I've been trying to get John to come and work with me. 15 years. I had to prove to him for 15 years that we could grow this company. So I do want to introduce John. I hope you impressed him after that story. John manages our ancillary benefits. Just tell him a little bit about your background.
Yeah, I'm John Hughes. Born and raised in Aurora, Illinois. I have about 22 years of insurance experience, mostly pricing, so I really understand the ancillary benefits. So any questions? And I've been working closely with Loretta. Sorry to hear she's leaving. But yeah, any questions anyone has on the ancillary, I'm here to answer.
Thank you, John. So, do you guys have any questions for us in regards to the benefits, in regards to philosophy, in regards to sort of the future?
I just want to say thank you for you guys' continued great service. Thank you guys for continuing to fight for us and make sure that we get those great rates. Coming from Proviso Township, making sure that Proviso Township continues to stay taken care of. And you know I love you there. So I just thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any comments, questions?
Happy belated birthday.
You're Pisces too.
Pisces.
These are a little dangerous.
My birthday's on the 11th.
Oh, March?
Yeah.
Oh, we got a whole situation. So party. Y'all don't bring no cake.
And that is your Wells Armstrong.
I just wanted to also acknowledge and thank this team with CS Strategies for helping us introduce a new program for employees that we'll be rolling out, flexible spending account. This is a new benefit that this team is bringing to employees in Maywood that will allow them to set aside dollars before taxes and use those funds for medical expenses, prescriptions, dependent care, dental and vision, those types of things. So this is a brand new benefit this administration is bringing to the employees for the Village of Maywood. I want to thank the team for helping us to implement it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. All right, so we'll go to 11, Village Attorney Report, none. 12, omnibus agenda items. Need a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Trustee Jones. I need a second.
Second.
Second by Trustee Reyes-Plummer. Please read them all.
Okay. A, motion to approve the monthly financial report for March 2022. B, motion to approve invitation to join Visit Oak Park as a partner community for fiscal year 2023. No cost item, template letter addressed to President and CEO of Visit Oak Park for execution by Mayor Booker, and letter dated March 1st, 2022 from President and CEO of Visit Oak Park to Mayor Booker inviting the Village of Maywood to join Visit Oak Park. C, ordinance authorizing certain expenditures from the general fund of the Madison Street, Fifth Avenue tax increment financing redevelopment project area fund to pay for the televising and cleaning of certain sewers and award of contract to Lowell Bidder Sewer Tech LLC, project televising and cleaning of certain combined sewers for the 2022 capital improvements project. 12D, ordinance approving the official zoning map of the Village of Maywood as incorporated into section 151.02 official plan of the Maywood Village Code with the cover memo dated March 16, 2022 from Kleinthorpe and Jenkins. 12E, resolution approving and authorizing the execution of an intergovernmental agreement between the Village of Maywood and the County of Cook, Illinois, for the provision of environmental health inspectional services term December 1st, 2021 to November 30th, 2022, with the agreement attached as Exhibit A. 12F, resolution approving the appointment of Village Manager Chastity Wells Armstrong as Budget Officer for the Village of Maywood. 12G, resolution authorizing the approval and execution of a memorandum of understanding between the Village of Maywood and the Regional Transportation Authority for transit-oriented development zoning code updates, with the cover memo dated March 16, 2022 from Kleinthorpe and Jenkins. 12H, resolution authorizing and approving the acceptance of a grant from the Illinois Housing Development Authority Strong Communities Program, with the cover memo dated March 16, 2022 from Kleinthorpe and Jenkins. 12I, resolution authorizing and approving the execution of the Illinois Housing Development Authority's termination agreement for funding agreement for abandoned residential property municipality relief program, with the cover memo dated March 16, 2022 from Kleinthorpe and Jenkins.
All right. Are there any questions? Please call the roll.
Trustee Sanchez.
Aye.
Trustee Reyes-Plummer.
Aye.
Trustee Jones.
Aye.
Trustee Lightfoot. Trustee Peppers.
Aye.
Trustee Brandon.
Aye.
And Mayor Booker.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. 13, new business. 13A, consideration and action on resolution authorizing and approving the execution of pool use agreement between the Village of Maywood and the Maywood Park District for the use and operation of the Fred Hampton Pool for the 2022 summer season and joint investigation of funding operations for rehabilitation of existing pool facility or replacement of a pool facility with new pool facility. So you all have the agreement in front of you. The conversation is more so realistically after Executive Director Hall has looked at the pool and looked at different reports and had different discussions. We are looking at a different direction of how to offer pool offerings to the community. Because this year, looking at our fiscal budget, looking at what has already been spent in the recreational funds that we allot for every year, the feasibility of doing all of the work that needs to be done to the pool this year, it's too much. So we're looking at alternative options to offer to the residents for swimming options, but definitely still looking towards the investigation of funding options to rehabilitate the pool and or potentially do a full pool replacement. So we're still looking forward to going forward with the pool IGA, not just being fully open to the community. The expense of getting the pool up and running with needing to add a new heater. The pool has not been running for 3 years, so the maintenance and the requirements that we need to go into, the compliance aspect of getting the pool up and running, was looking at what's in the budget to do it, as well as how much it would cost when we're already looking at renovating or replacing the pool. It's a bigger expense than we can afford in this current fiscal year. But that was based on reports and information that they've reviewed. So we still are looking forward to approving the IGA. So with that being said, I still need a motion.
Mayor,
Trustee Brandon.
So we're looking at approving what again? Wait, so let me just go back real fast. So to the manager, can you provide me with like a status report on the monies we have received through a grant to repair the pool? Do you have any information on that? And then the other report, because I think we asked 2 things. So we asked about the status report on the repairing of the pool. I know that you had a meeting set up with Mr. Jimenez with the YMCA. Do you have any information regarding that?
Manager Rose Armstrong.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, so I met with Mr. Phil Jimenez, who's the Executive Director of the Oak Park YMCA. Just sat down and had a conversation about the previous partnership with the village. He stated that the partnership was going very well when they ran the pool. At some point, he said something happened. He's not sure what, but communication with the former village manager stopped between him and the former village manager. He was then directed to the former director of community development, Mr. Myers, and he had expressed repeatedly concerns about the condition of the pool. Because the village, and I'm paraphrasing his comments to me, because the village had not taken the steps to make the repairs, the YMCA, as a pool operator, as a certified pool operator, did not feel comfortable continuing the partnership with the village of Maywood. So they backed out because they didn't want to be liable and responsible and connected to anything that would happen potentially to a resident because the repairs had not been done. So that was the first thing. He did indicate that he is supportive of the village of Maywood. He did indicate that he believes it is too late to try to open the pool for this season. They would be anyone trying to open the pool, whether it's them, whether it's the Maywood Park District or anybody else. There is not adequate time to do that. He did offer support to the Maywood Park District. He was excited to hear that there is a partnership and a strong collaboration with the Park District. And he said that he would offer any support that he can, you know, if that included training lifeguards or those types of things, once the village decided what direction we were going to go in regard to the pool. So that's the first thing. The second thing you mentioned, I believe, was the grant, which I think was approximately $333,000. Our finance director just left for the evening. That grant has not been expended because of COVID. The Department of Natural Resources, which awarded the grant, did extend the grant season for 2 years. So at this time, I would like to work with the mayor and get in touch with some of our legislators and Director Hall with the Park District as we figure out, and this board figures out what the direction is going to be, to see if we are going to lobby for additional funding for this project, or to see what additional resources will be needed once you all make a determination of the direction you want to go in.
So,
one second.
Trustee Ruben.
Yeah, so just go back to the funds. So the funds that were allocated, none of the funds have been utilized to make any repairs to the pool at all. So we still have over $300,000. To my understanding, I thought that we were scheduled like last year, that there was some, those funds supposed to be used last year or the year even prior to then, to get the pool up, put those funds to use. So I'm shocked to hear that none of those funds were used at all in regards to that grant.
I will confirm that for you. Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And so I guess for me, and I stated this before, that we need to get a grasp on understanding what the needs are for ourselves. So if it's having someone to come out to, and I thought it was already done, and that's the purpose of the resource or the grant that we received to make those necessary repairs. And so if you can identify for me what the needs are for the pools, because the village of Maywood should have or know for itself, because it's our property, what the exact needs are for the pools, so that we know how to move forward with it as well. And so when it relates to this whole proposal of establishing an agreement, I don't even think at this particular juncture, it isn't clear to me why this would even be necessary if they're not going to be operating the pool, because the whole focus was for the park district to be operating the pool this summer. So I guess for me, I'm just trying to remove the clouds of confusion in regards to why are we moving forward with this if they're not going to be operating the pool. And so, I mean, the whole agreement, and I read the attachments as well. It was like question mark, question mark, question mark in some of the areas in regards to the finances and what it would cost for them to operate the pool and all of those concerns. I don't even think that this is necessary at this particular time to even move forward with this, simply because they're not going to be operating the pool with what we just, the information that we were just provided. Maybe look at it at a later date, but I don't even see the purpose of this particular item at this particular juncture.
So just to give you some clarity, so the reason I was explaining the pool's not going to be open this year is to say, with that being removed from the contract, if you're looking at the contract and you go to section 16, it still talks about joint investigation of funding options and rehabilitation of existing pool facility or replacement of pool facility. So if we're still in agreement with that, the attorneys would then need the direction to redraft the agreement so that we can actually do the agreement specifically for joint investigation for funding options for the rehabilitation and existing pool facility or replacement of the pool facility with a new pool. The conversations have been, are we at this point in time, at this present juncture, even though we got $333,000, realistically the pool probably needs about $800,000, $900,000 worth of work. So when we think about it from that standpoint, putting it or more, or if we're looking at putting a new pool, that could be looking at from the state level, while we have this 2-year extension, because the $330,000 got a 2-year extension because everybody's pool, everybody's renovations, everybody's material costs, everybody got put on hold. So that's why the state gave the 2-year extension for the current $333,000. The reason that we're engaging the pool with the park district is because nobody in the village of Maywood is a certified pool provider or facilitator. The executive director of the park district has over 30 years of park district experience, and she is a certified pool executive. So with that being said, she also has the connections because she has ran multiple pools over the years in partnership with the Illinois Association of Park and Recreation, with the Illinois Association of Park Districts, to actually help with the thought process of if we're going to renovate the pool, not looking towards Hancock Engineering, that's more so infrastructure, but actually looking at professional pool companies that actually the Illinois Association of Park District and the Illinois Association of Park and Recreation are in partnership with to get the pool done. So it's not saying that we're expending any money to the Park District whatsoever. It's saying that while we are looking at possibilities of best way to move forward for the pool, whether it be renovation or whether it be new build, we're saying we would like to go into a joint investigation which would give them the ability to look at their resources of what they can bring to the table for a pool, while at the same time we still do our due diligence. So it's not saying that we're looking for, as you say, the question marks, the fees, and anything like that. In the new agreement that we would be saying tonight we want to see drafted, it's literally saying, as the pool professional and as the park and recreation professional, we would like to go into an agreement that you all could assist us and help us as the certified pool professionals of over 30 years of experience to give us the best feasibility thought process of how to best move forward. When we have that feasibility thought process of how to best move forward, then that's when it comes back to us before the board.
I appreciate that thought process. But this conversation is in the wrong place there. Because what we're talking about tonight should be at the Cal meeting.
Are we interested? So this is what I'm saying. Trust me, let me stop right there. So all we're talking about tonight is, are we interested in looking at another contract that would eliminate the 22 season, but we would still need to talk in the Cal about a joint investigation as a contract. So that's the much to go. Bring it back to the Cal as a joint investigation contract. Not talking about the 22 summer season, not talking about fees, not talking about operations, but literally the joint investigation of funding options for the rehabilitation or replacement is literally the direction that the attorney needs to be able to redraft this document to bring it to the Cal. If he doesn't have the direction to redraft the document, we can't get it to the Cal. That's all we're doing right now.
No, so first there needs to be at the Cal, right? Right. So first we need to have a conversation on it before we give him, because this meeting, we're taking action on things at this meeting. And so now we're being presented with some new information tonight that we should probably table this item to the Cal meeting to have further conversation on all of those things that you just presented to us tonight. Specifically, if we want to build a new pool, these are some big situations or big conversations we have. Build a new pool.
Trustee, we still have to do the investigation to decide that. But we still have to get to the point of the agreement. Only thing that we're doing tonight is saying, Attorney Jerusik, can you please draft a document that we can review at the Cal and discuss at the Cal that would literally only talk about investigating. No funds, no costs. We're not deciding if we're renovating the pool. It's not deciding we're going to blow up the pool. It's not deciding we're going to build a new pool. We are literally looking for an agreement in regards to a joint investigation. That is it, Trustee Brandon. That is all we're giving the attorney direction on tonight. We're not voting on anything except for a consensus for the attorney to move forward with drafting a new document that we would then discuss at the Cal. That is exactly what I'm trying to say.
If I could just jump in.
Attorney Jerusik.
The document that's in the packet on the agenda came from the direction, right, of the board at the Cal, right? It has a few open pieces because that was information that the manager and the park district was tasked with filling in the gaps. In the last couple of weeks, right? That information came to light that there wasn't going to be the timing and the funding necessary to get the pool put together for the 2022 season. So the same idea that's in your packet can easily be refined and cut down to just focus on section 16, which is also discussed at your last Cal, which is not only we're going to try to get the pool going for the 2022 season, the park district and the village was going to jointly investigate other funding options for either a more comprehensive rehab of the pool or a total rebuild of the pool. So the mayor is correct. This is not an action item tonight. His whole point was, you know, we're going to revisit this issue at the next Cal, but carving this agreement back to focus just on section 16. So if everybody's good with that, that would be the suggested kind of action for right now. Well, take us
So-
back to Kyle to focus on section 16 and then move it back. to
With
the-
that being said, would everyone be in agreement to see the joint agreement at the CAL to investigate funding options for the rehabilitation and existing pool facilities or replacement of pool facility with a new pool? Would anybody be opposed to that, to bring that back as a drafted document to discuss at the next CAL? Trustee Brandon.
So why do we have to draft? so why do we
Because it's
have
not
to
the same contract.
It will be the same document, but it's just going to be reduced to focus on section 16. So it's not going to be a new contract. It's going to be just more focused. Yes, IGA, that the Park District's attorney and Park District has already reviewed. So removing the 2022 pool operation and funding components, it's just a redaction. It's just a simple striking those things from the agreement. So there should be this should get through the Park District just fine, and we can get something in front of you that both parties agree to.
So would anybody be opposed to that?
Yeah, I'm going to be opposed to it because of the process. I feel like the process is out of order because we should have a conversation first at the CAL meeting and detail what we want to go in the agreement or whether or not we want to include all of what was just mentioned in this new agreement that's going to be taking place. So for those reasons, yeah.
Okay, would anybody else be opposed to it? You want to say 6 out of 7?
No, Mayor.
Go ahead, Trustee.
I'm
Trustee
not
Jones.
opposed to it, but I just think for clarity, it's 3A, we're not really, we're not doing a consideration of action on what it says here.
We're not even taking a vote.
Right, okay, so I guess if we're acknowledging that 3A, we're not voting on it at all, but yeah, I'm fine with the new proposal. Just clarity that 3A is not what we're.
There is no roll being called. We are
Okay.
just doing a consensus that we would like to see the updated document brought to the committee as a whole.
So we're not, as long as that's clear, I'm fine with that. Right?
There's no motion, there's no second, there's no call to roll. Thank you. All right, so we'll go ahead and get that updated, and then we'll put that on the CAL for consideration. Okay. 14A, agenda for March 22nd, 2022. Public hearing on temporary zoning permit and business license moratorium. That was already done. 14A, all right. 15, Board of Trustee comments, none. 16, closed session. Need a motion to go into closed session to discuss the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body. Motion to approve by Trustee Reyes Plummer, second by Trustee Lightford. Are there any questions? Please call the roll.
Trustee Sanchez.
Aye.
Trustee Reyes Plummer.
Aye.
Trustee Jones.
Aye.
Trustee Lightford.
Aye.
Trustee Peppers.
Aye.
Trustee Brandon.
Aye.
And Mayor.
Aye.
And 9:06 p.m.
Everyone have a lovely night and God bless.
God bless.
Thank you.
On my way back.
I don't get on the preference when I went precinct, I'm like, I was frustrated.